Hi, everybody. Welcome another week. It is intuitive and evolutionary astrologer Natha Perkins here. Over the last few weeks, we have done the deep dive into the archetype of Scorpio, and we're not done yet. Scorpio is such a deep sign, and it has so much to offer us in terms of our own self-experience and what we have come here to explore, the unfortunate traumas that come our way that ultimately lead us into the depth of our own personal power. So if you've missed any of the previous Scorpio episodes, I encourage you to give them a listen. I feel that our Scorpio characteristics are some of the least understood and some of the most important to try to understand, because otherwise we're just walking around kind of traumatized and resentful and bitter, powerless, and nobody wants to be those things. So this week, we are going to look at Scorpio and Taurus. Every archetype has a sister, a counterpart that we rest into, that we lean into. And with Scorpio, we lean into Taurus. Scorpio is water, Taurus is earth. Scorpio is emotions, Taurus is logic. When we're in the deep and dark Scorpio waters, and we're having trouble navigating them because we're bumping up against our pain, our suffering, our addictions, our power struggles. What's the remedy? What are we supposed to do? I mean, a few things, and I've given you some ways to work with these deeper aspects as we've been going along, but we head on over to Taurus, and that is where we get into relationship with the physical body. And by the way, if you like my style and you want to work with me, you can find me at electraastrology.com. I do private readings. I've done private readings for so many of you that listen to this podcast. I also do astrology mentorship. If you want to learn astrology, or if you're a therapist or a coach or a guide of some sort, and you want to be able to use astrology to help your clients, but you don't have the time and energy and effort to learn astrology, you can come see me and I help walk you through astrology wisdom that's going to help you help your clients. So you can find me at electraastrology.com. We are looking at Taurus, and we are looking at the importance of tuning into the physical body when you are overcome with the stress of your Scorpio energies. Because, Taurus brings a unique kind of power to the table. It is with Taurus, if you remember, you can go back and listen to the Taurus episodes, but it is with Taurus that we are realizing that we can create whatever we want, that it's about dedicating ourselves to that which we want. So I use the analogy of the garden with Taurus. You don't plant your garden on April 1st and have a full-fledged garden of tomatoes on April 15th. But you plant your garden in April. By the time August rolls around, you have juicy, luscious fruits and vegetables in your garden. And how do you get there? You show up consistently. You gather what you need. You make sure that everything is functioning in the right way. And that is what we do with Taurus. We want something. We have a desire. We have a value. And we say, in order for me to get that, I will show up for myself. I will do the work that is required. I will prove that I am steady and that I am dependable. And then I realize how powerful I am. So with Scorpio, if we're fearful of losing our power and we feel that we've been hurt and we don't want to get hurt again, then we lean into our Taurus and we say, what do I need to support myself? And how can I step by step, systematically bring what I need into the equation so that I feel supported, so that I land on my feet, so that I find that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And Taurus is ruled by Venus. And Venus is that energy that says, I'm good at greasing the wheels. I'm good at interacting with people. I'm good at figuring out what feels juicy and delightful and what I want and what I'm willing to go after, the work that I'm willing to put into it, because I like pleasure. I like it when things feel good. I like it when things taste good. And so regardless of any deficiencies that I'm feeling over in my Scorpio side, any dysfunctions, any fear that something bad is going to happen, I can always lean into the part of me that says, wait a minute, I know that good things exist. And I know that good things make me feel better. What if I set my burdens aside temporarily and I move into pleasure and I use my logic to understand how to access that pleasure? Now, there is a physical component, and I'll be really diving into this in our series episodes following this one. But the physical component of being in the body and the importance of being in the body to understand what messages the body is giving. And we know that when we're ignoring what our body says, a lot of times we end up getting sick. It's like if you aren't speaking your truth, then you wake up with a sore throat. Gee, I wonder why you have a sore throat. If you need to go to bed and you're out late and you keep yawning and you can't concentrate, gee, I wonder why you're yawning, right? Our bodies have a very specific way of telling us what we need. And a lot of times when we're over in Scorpio, we get so caught up in the emotions of how we feel, the underlying fear that is triggering the emotions, that we come straight up and out of our body and we just go into, oh my God, I have to protect. I'm wringing my hands. I have to protect. I have to protect. Given the fact that most of us go into panic mode when we don't have an actual threat that is with us, a lot of our threats are perceived because of our mind, because of our emotions, because of our history. When we're not looking at an actual threat and we're still totally activated, then the solution is to come back into the physical body. Take some deep breaths, connect in with your breath. And so we can do that right now for a second. Take a deep breath and come into your body, connect with your body. How are you holding yourself? Is there anything that needs to be adjusted? If you have any pain or discomfort, try breathing into that pain and discomfort and see whether you can use your breath to break up some of that density. So this is very simple, but it's very hard to remember to do. When we are overcome with fear and worst case scenario, as we tend to go into with our Scorpio archetype, bringing ourselves out of that very quickly by just tuning into our physical body. Even shaking your body, taking a sip of water, doing something to break that hold that your mind, that your fear, that your emotions have on you can be really powerful. And if you look at your addictions, because we know that addictions tend to fall under the umbrella of Scorpio and Pisces, what happens when you are indulging in one of your addictions? There is an unconsciousness that happens where we cut off parts of our experience simply because we feel that we can't deal. So think about it like this. If you have ever been somebody that has had too much alcohol to drink, you know that one of the things that can happen when you're out having a great time is that you might come home the next day and notice that you have bruises and you don't remember where they came from and you don't remember them happening. Probably you bumped yourself, you whacked yourself, and you didn't even feel it. That's an example of using something to numb your Scorpio pain that blocks you from your body. Now think about if you are on your phone and you're scrolling, or you're in front of the TV and you're zoning out, and then you realize, I haven't been breathing. Do you ever have those moments where your body forces you to take a really deep breath? You're like, oh, and you realize you have been doing very shallow breathing. So it's like when we get into some of this Scorpio stuff, we lose complete connection with our body. And with Taurus, we understand that it is through the body that we are most empowered. So when you think about growing a garden, you can't just go unconscious, can't plant your seeds and then ignore your garden for the rest of the summer. You really have to be in there making sure that you're plucking the weeds, you're thinning the crops, you're watering, getting enough sunshine, etc. And it's when you're giving this conscious care to this garden that you are able to create exactly what you want. So when we're looking at the balancing act between our inner Scorpio and our inner Taurus, we are understanding that when we are struggling, when we have gone unconscious and we are feeling our pain, we are feeling victimized, we are wanting to blame somebody else for our pain, we are engaged in power play and manipulation, that we have generally become unconscious to our physical body. We've become unconscious to the present moment. Now I flip because it's not that Scorpio is always bad and Taurus is always good. Taurus can go into its own shadow and Scorpio can be its own support system. And I talk about that in the Taurus Scorpio episode. So you can look for that too if this is an archetype that you feel shows up really strongly for you. And don't forget that this is the financial axis in the zodiac, Taurus and Scorpio. With Scorpio, we feel that it's other people's money. It's our fear of not having enough. It's debt. It's our lack. It's where we're waiting for somebody to give us money or somebody is taking our money. And with Taurus, it's where we are building our money. We are building our resources. We are able to make our own money. So even just using that analogy, this is something to really look at in your own life, is where do you feel lack? Where do you feel you're indebted? Where do you feel like you're waiting on somebody to give you something or you're always having to output and give to somebody else? That is Scorpio. That's Scorpio's shadow. Anytime that you're there in that bundle, you can move into Taurus, which says, I want to figure out how to pay off my debt. I want to figure out how to not need stuff from other people, especially if it's given with strings attached. I want to figure out how to not always be giving out to other people without getting anything in return. And again, this is where you show up, you become conscious, you tune into the messages of your body. You're very aware that when fear comes in, that you have power over it. And I'm telling you, the Scorpio stuff is really hard, but on the other side of the difficulty is like straight up distilled power. With Scorpio, we learn how to see the truth and we learn how to deepen into our awareness so that it doesn't matter whether there's fear in the system. We feel so strong and so secure, and we have the knowledge that we can fix any problem that arises. We can pay off any debt we incur. We can grow our own resources because we can show up. We know how to use our logic. We know how to use our steadiness, our dedication. And I've talked over the last few episodes about cultivating this inner steadiness so that when something comes along that throws us off balance, we don't have to fully topple over and have to recover from the ground up. We wobble a little bit and then we find our core. We know that we can take our deep breaths, we can come into our physical body. We can look with curiosity at what this fear is triggering. What is the underlying stress here? And how can I deepen into my awareness of it so that I get some of the treasure that's hidden back in this deep, dark cave? So I'm going to continue this conversation because talking about Ceres involves Pluto. Pluto, the modern ruler of Scorpio. So we are not quite done with this conversation. I can't wait to start diving into asteroids next. And let's talk about the astrology of the week. We begin on November 11th, Monday. We're looking at Venus entering into Capricorn. Venus was in Capricorn for its retrograde at the end of 2021 and into 2022. So you might find some of these themes are resurfacing. Venus in Capricorn wants to apply Capricorn or Saturn themes to the idea of values. So this is a good time, speaking of debt, to pay down debt. And maybe we're talking about financial debt. Maybe we're talking about emotional debt. If you, at the end of this year, find yourself needing to make amends to somebody, needing to cut ties with somebody, needing to own up to something that you know went wrong, that you had a part in, this is a really good time to do it. Sometimes this is going to look like having a direct conversation with the person. Sometimes this is going to be more like on a spiritual level, on an energetic level. You're saying your goodbyes, you're saying your I'm sorries. And this makes me think of the Ho'oponopono prayer. I'm not sure if I said that right, but you can follow me. It is a mantra that we can use anytime that we are in difficult relationship with somebody. It's a silent prayer you say to yourself, can say it over and over. I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. And this works really well when you are not in contact with somebody and you know that you have spiritual, emotional work to do with them and their relationship. And for whatever reason, you can't have direct contact. You can say this prayer through the airwaves, through the ethers. I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. This is also something that you can say when you are in contact with somebody and you just need a little bit of extra support in relating to them. Because Venus moving through Capricorn, this always brings up a sense of karma, relationship karma. And in a time in the world where we are trying to transcend where we've been, some of our poor communication habits, our habit of judging people, of dismissing people who are different than we are, of judging ourselves, of outsourcing our power. These things all show up in our relationships. So as we're trying to improve and transcend the difficulties of those things, we have some karma to clear up. So look around your life and say, do I have any relationships where I need to do a little bit of amend making? Or maybe I need to do a little bit of release work, some cutting of cords, and you'll know. You'll know. It'll come to you. On the 12th, we have Mercury squaring Saturn. This is a big week for Saturn because Saturn is stationing to go direct. And when an outer planet is stationing, we tend to feel it. We're being shown our Saturn in Pisces work. And it's so interesting that we have just passed through this major election because we've all had to get pretty intimate with our spiritual connection through this. Because no matter which side of the fence you're on, you've had some spiritual boot camp to go through. Like I said in my election aftermath video, give that a listen if you haven't. And I just want to say for anybody that is feeling super easily triggered about political stuff right now, it is designed to be untriggering, to be very heart opening, and to give you a breath of relief and a glimmer of hope. Okay, so know that it's not one of those political videos that's going to incite you. But what I have seen and even what I've experienced is the necessity of leaning into some sort of higher power, higher wisdom through this. And Saturn is in Pisces, and Saturn is our governing bodies. So as we all hopefully use this Saturn in Pisces transit, which is 3 years, started in 23, it goes through 25, we're looking at how are we outsourcing our personal power to things out there, to governments, to our inner critic, to the critical judgment of others, and how can we instead turn and allow our guiding power to be our source connection. So you might notice this week as Saturn is stationing to go direct that you are being asked to get organized with your source connection. What does that look like? Does that mean that I'm in prayer, in meditation, that I'm in deep breaths, that I am practicing a sense of trust and surrender? It's really important to do right now. So as Mercury squares Saturn, we are looking at how our mind, especially, Mercury in Sagittarius has a way of feeling right. Sagittarius, we love Sagittarius, and there's a bit of righteousness that can come in, a bit of a know-it-all energy. So if your brain is being a know-it-all about anything right now, this is a good opportunity this week to just back off a little bit and go out into the bigger picture, which is what an adventure this is. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm along for the ride. And in order to feel okay about trusting and surrendering to being along on the ride, I have to lean into my source connection here. Okay. So you see how this is all, we're being really blessed with this astrology right now. So I want to talk about this full moon because we are approaching this full moon on November 15th, which is sort of the big news of the week. So we are in this full moon, which is that in that Taurus Scorpio axis, the sun and the moon are at 24 degrees. 24 degrees in degree theory in astrology is a Pisces degree. So we're looking at our relationship to our finances, to our money, to our abundance, to the things that we want more of, things we love and desire, and the things that bring us pleasure, and the things that we feel block us from the money, the pleasure, the goodies. Now, with a Piscean, Neptunian flavor, while, by the way, Saturn stations direct, because this all happens on November 15th, this is more of us being asked to be aware of illusions that we hold, be aware of smoke and mirrors that might be happening. Because a lot of times what happens is that we feel like we don't have enough. And we feel like we're always blocked from getting the goodies. Like everyone else seems to make more money than me. Everyone else seems to have more beauty than I do. Everyone else has access to the mysteries and I don't, right? So this is a full moon where you're being asked to set that aside and really just tune into like, it doesn't even matter what I think I have or what I don't think I have. If I am working on practicing my neutrality and my trust, which is what we do with Pisces and Neptune, then where does that put me? And we see that Uranus is in a conjunction with the moon. So Uranus is always bringing us something new, something interesting, and something unexpected. But a lot of times Uranus brings in the things that we weren't really asking for. It brings in things that we weren't expecting. And then we have to grapple with that. You know, a silly example is I ordered chicken at the restaurant and they brought me the beef by accident. My waitress messed it up. And I'm annoyed because I don't have my chicken. But while they're getting my chicken, she left the beef and I start eating it and it's so delicious. Like, oh, maybe I should have just ordered the beef to begin with, right? So that's what Uranus does. Uranus brings us stuff that feels like, I didn't want this. And then as we get accustomed to what it brought us, we're like, ooh, this is better. I actually wanted this instead. So know that we're still in a ton of shift and transition. So anything that has happened over the last few weeks, I mean, we kind of know what I'm talking about, that has felt like, I didn't like this. Oh, this feels stressful. Know that we still don't have the full picture of any of this. We're waiting for the movie to unfold still. And the more fluid that we can be, the more trusting in our source connection, in an ever optimizing universe that we are, the more exciting things can feel. We're also looking at next week, Pluto moving into Aquarius for good. We're done with Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto in Capricorn is the old structures of power and how they have affected us. So it's like we've hopped on the roller coaster ride and we're not getting off. They're not going to stop the ride to let us off. And so we have two choices. We can either panic, nail bite, scream and holler, and have a completely miserable time as we're on this roller coaster, or we can suck it up and we can say, okay, maybe I'll have some fun. Maybe I'll just relax and allow this thing to take me where it's going to take me with the knowledge that I have strength, that I have power, I have fortitude. And really, it's just a matter of my own perception. A lot of this just exists in our mind alone. It isn't an actual physical reality. It's just in our mind. And in closing, I just want to encourage you that when you are on a disastrous roller coaster ride in your head, that coming back into your body will help you ground and reality check. All right. Hope this was helpful. See you guys next week.